In this video, I'm going to give you some hints, tips, and guidance for when you're completing Day 5 Mathematical Modeling College Characteristics. In this video, I'm providing you with student work samples that can be used to answer the questions on the slides for the Explorer. Your teacher may provide you with samples that she or he wants you to use. You have two options. First option is to go ahead and watch this video as a sample video to get some ideas and then answer the questions provided by your teacher with the work provided by your teacher in your own slide set. The second option is if your teacher did not provide you its work to analyze, you can use the work in this video for your analysis. So I'm going to jump over to the Explorer. You may pause the video now and answer the questions on your slides based on this model. Your other option is to follow along as I go through these responses. So what does this model tell you? I'm looking here and I see some statistical information. I see average of cost per year, median, minimum, and maximum. I see a comparison between private for-profit, private nonprofit, and public colleges. So clearly the student was trying to think about what is the relationship between the ownership of the college and the average cost per year. So what am I noticing? Or the median cost per year, minimum of the cost per year, or the maximum of the cost per year? So they're looking at these statistical pieces of information. Well, by looking at this, I'm seeing that overall, private nonprofits have the highest average, the highest median. They have the lowest minimum, but also the highest maximum. So I'm thinking that private nonprofit colleges are going to be the most expensive college to choose, typically, but there are some situations where they might not be. Sorry, not the lowest minimum, but a lower minimum than the private for-profits. The private for-profits are less money than the private nonprofits, right, overall, but there's still more money than the public institutions. So when I look at these data points for the public institutions, it's pretty consistent that they only go between about $10,000 and $35,000 a year, and on average, or the median, is about $21,000. So if I'm looking for the cheapest option, I'm probably going to choose a public institution. If money isn't a factor and I want to spend some more money on college, which isn't typical, I might look at a private school. What questions do you have? So that's all the information that this model might tell us. What questions might you have? I might wonder, why are public schools the cheapest option? Why are private for-profits less money than private nonprofits? Because I'm thinking if something's for-profit, that means they're trying to make money. So why would they charge less than a private nonprofit? What other things about schools affect cost of the college? Are there other factors that are going to affect the cost of the university? Okay. And you may have other questions that are beautiful. Here's another piece of data, another model that we can look at. So this is a frequency table. And this frequency table is comparing the size of private and public schools, and they're grouping it into small, medium, and large. What they probably did is probably added up how many schools fell into the small category based on the number of students, then the medium, and then the large. So there are a lot more private schools represented than public schools. That's something important to take into account here. But what I'm also noticing is that overall, private schools are more often than not small. Whereas public schools are more evenly distributed, there are less large public schools, but they're more evenly distributed among small, medium, and large. The greatest number of schools overall are small schools. And then the smallest amount of schools overall are large schools. And I know my data set had a total of 199 schools. I might want to know what percent of private schools, right? So now I'm getting to questions. What percent of private schools are small compared to what percent of public schools are small? That's maybe a better way to compare, since I'm looking at the total number and they're not very close. So if I'm looking here, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of private small schools, but then that's a lot bigger total for the private schools. I might wonder why there are such few large universities overall. I might wonder about the difference between private for-profit and private nonprofit, because this person grouped all the private schools together. You might have some other wonderings as well, which were great to have and also should be included here. Okay. Finally, we get to the summary, and you can ask yourself, answer these questions about either, again, for your slides, you might answer it about the models that your teacher provided you, or you might answer it about the models that I provided you here. So I'll just go back and let you preview them again. And so you can think about which models were more interesting or helpful for you and why. What are some limitations of these different types of models, and how can these models be improved? Finally, after answering these summary questions, you can answer this last final question regarding this entire lesson sequence. How can mathematical modeling be used to help prospective students make informed choices about college? So in summary, you should have been able to analyze all different types of mathematical models and identify which models make the most sense for you, which models you found to be most helpful, which models show you which specific pieces of information, and which models you use for specific data sets, were most useful for specific data sets.